Hello, I'm Matt Galloway, and this is the Current Podcast.
3, 2, 1, go!
You know, it's not every day that you get to see an Olympic medalist launch himself off the 10-meter platform. I'm here at the Saskatoon Diving Club. Maybe it seems unlikely for a small city in a landlocked province, but this is one of the top diving facilities in the country. Steve Carroll is the head coach here. He won gold at the Canada Games in 1985, and he started this club with his wife, Mary Carroll, who represented Canada at the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona. They came here from Newfoundland in 2008, and they never left.
The big draw that brought us here was the pool. And I've been here 18 years, and the first 10 years I just committed to developing a culture. And you don't come in and say, I want this culture. I want you guys to be confident. I want you to win. I want an attitude. I want hard work. You got to create good people around you. And obviously, Mary's a phenomenal coach. Technically, I don't think anyone could touch her in the world. But the other stuff behind the scenes, that was my job. When they're younger, we just really make sure that they care about each other. We teach them character before we teach them how to compete. We teach them how to have empathy for other kids. And we think that all is very important in becoming a full-rounded athlete.
That sounds like something that perhaps has been missing in other elements of sport, and high-level sport, perhaps.
I can guarantee that. It was missing here. Yeah. You know, when we had COVID, I felt there was something missing. And I was kind of self-assessing, what are we missing? We pushed athletes and we pushed them, but we kind of disregarded all the things outside of sport that make them even better and make them good people outside of the sport. And that was my task during COVID. And I was shocked how much I didn't know.
What did you learn?
I learned empathy. I learned that courage. I learned that resilience. I learned how important that was to the development of kids.
What was it like to see a couple of your athletes go to Paris, to the Olympics?
It's a biggie. It was, I think if I just went to Paris, with just Paris and no Olympics, no daughter there, no wife there, no teammates there, I think I probably would have cried. It was just overwhelming. But the layers on top of layers. I'm almost 60 now, and I didn't think I'd ever go to the Olympics. I used to coach the old kids. When Mary came up with Rylan, I said, Mary, you're going to have to stick with him. You're going to have to start taking the older kids, because she had something with him that was special, and I didn't want to come in and break it. So, I coach the little kids, and it's very rewarding, but I thought I'd never get to the Olympics. So going there and seeing our two athletes there, and my daughter was on the synchronized swimming team there, I don't think there was an hour went by when I didn't think about everything and just filled up with tears. It was just so emotional. It was incredible. It was more emotion than I could ever contain. It was really hard. This is 4 months after the Olympics now, and I still bring myself back to those moments. And there were so many moments that just make you go, wow, what an experience, And if I quit coaching tomorrow, I'm pretty happy with what happens, pretty fulfilled. I feel the reward, and I can promise you that Mary is still feeling like there's something more. It's never enough. And now she's on the next 4 years of Olympic training. We got a kid named Kash Tarasov who came in 10 years ago watching Rylan succeed and watching him do what Rylan did, something that Canadians never did before, And now Kash, a little boy from Saskatoon, wants to outdo what Rylan did.
What is the story, do you think, that this club tells about Saskatoon?
I don't think we could have done that in Montreal or Toronto or Calgary.
Why?
I think it's the size of the city. Our kids appreciate what they have, and I appreciate what we have. This is a really special city, and I think in return we put Saskatoon on the map as a really positive place to live and a cool place to bring up some athletes.
One of those Olympians that competed in Paris is Rylan Wiens. He competed in the Games in Tokyo as well, then this summer in Paris where he won bronze in synchronized diving.
Going into the night of the synchro competition with my partner Nathan, we looked at each other and we're like, this is what we've been working for the last 16 years for. On that last dive, I remember waiting with Nathan, knowing we're third place right now if the Mexicans don't get a certain score on the dive. We knew the dive was close, but that that weight, it's something else. It's something that I can't even explain. Just the hope that they didn't do it, hope that we did it, and that uncertainty of what happened. It felt like an eternity, but as soon as those scores came up, the feeling of like just pure joy and excitement, overwhelming.
I mean, the work is hard, right? Is there a point before you get to that stage where you think, like, what am I doing?
Yeah, there's I can't say there's been many weeks where I didn't question, in the last couple of years, why am I doing this?
Really?
And especially after last year, I had a nasty back injury, missed the World Championships, missed a couple other competitions, and coming back from that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, mentally and physically. So it really came down to a lot of things like journaling, like reassuring myself that I want to go to the Olympics and get that Olympic medal. I think I wrote down that goal probably 60, 70 times in my notebook. I knew that I'd put the work in, and I knew I deserved to be where I was.
Today, the national level divers are hard at work.
We use the trampoline a lot especially for springboard, what I do. It's like working on your leg and jumping and making sure you're in the right position on the end of the board. That's why we have that little square there. It's for balance.
How many of those would you imagine you have done in your life?
Since I was a child, probably around 1 million.
1 million. Mm-hmm. The other big star at this club is Margot Erlin. She competed in the 3-meter springboard event in Paris this summer.
This club means the world to me. When I moved here at 16, I was in a very dark place with my coach in Calgary, and I had kind of given up on myself and the sport, and this club kind of just opened their club and their home to me and kind of made it my home. And I mean, my coach was a big part in that, Mary Carroll. She basically was my mom here. My parents didn't move when I was 16, so she made sure that I was loving the sport again.
What was your experience at the Olympics like? How would you describe it?
My experience was amazing. I mean, I obviously didn't perform, like the results weren't there, but just being there was incredible for me, and I think it was just a lifelong dream that I finally got to achieve. I finally got to experience. I wish I could go back and relive it.
You were really hard on yourself after the Olympics.
Yeah.
You wrote about how you questioned whether you deserved to be called an Olympian.
Yes.
Why would you say that?
I think I was in a very tough spot post-competition, knowing I could have done better. I've always been hard on myself. I think it stems from being an elite athlete. You always want to be perfect. You always want to show your best, and I didn't that day, and I think there was just so many emotions about feeling like I let everybody down.
You have a tattoo of the Olympic rings, is
do,
that right? Yeah, I thought I saw that coming in. So clearly you believe that you're an Olympian now.
Absolutely.
When did you realize that? When somebody was inking you up, or?
No, I mean, I think it was the closing ceremonies, seeing all those people being there for me and for Canada and for the whole world, and these athletes, like, we're such a small population of the world, and I think having that big of a crowd just being there supporting us and was the start of me realizing that I was an Olympian. I think coming home and having my family and friends, like, we're so proud of you, like, just having their support was massive.
You are the 22nd best diver. There's 7.9 billion people in the world. You're the 22nd best diver in the world.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
It is amazing in the grand scheme, but when you're in the sport and you know that you can do better, like, it was a little bit overwhelming. So
what happens next? You also said, what did you say?
You can bet your ass I'll come back stronger.
There are certain people that I work with who would like me to jump off this really high diving board. Rylan has changed into his bathing suit, and he is going to take me up the steps to the top of the 10-meter platform.
Are we going up 10 meter right now?
Yeah. You ready?
Are you ready is the question.
I'm not going to go off of it, but I would like to know what it looks like when I'm up there.
So this is where it all begins. We're walking up to the 3 meters.
When do you start to get nervous when you're walking up here?
Me?
Yeah.
If I'm actually doing something off 10 meter, probably now. All right, this is our halfway point. I'll take you out on all the other ones, but I want to get the shock of 10 meter first.
Okay. The shock, I like that.
We're definitely getting up there.
We're getting up higher.
And now, this is where I spend most of my time.
So this is 10 meters up above the water?
This is 10 meters up. This is 10 meters, 33 feet, whatever you want to call it.
It's pretty high up. It's pretty high up.
Yeah, feel free to come to the end.
I'm going to hang on to the edge while I do that. When you're looking over, what is that like? What do you see?
You see for yourself.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's basically just a sheer drop right to the water.
Can you get a quiet mind when you're up here before you go off? Like, are you able to kind of still yourself such that you don't hear anything, you don't hear the fans, you don't hear, like, you just...
That's one of the biggest struggles when you're doing your dives is you have a set list of things. I think about 2 to 3 things in every dive, specific to that dive. I go through in my head once before I walk to the end. Big deep breath, count to 3, and throw myself off.
And when you throw yourself off, is there anything that's happening in your mind at that time, or is your body just kind of going through what it's been trained to do?
Once you're kind of leading up to a competition, generally, you want to stop thinking. You want to let it just happen naturally. You have that muscle memory, you have that base, and you can't think that fast when you're in the competition. You get down in less than 2 seconds, so I mean, you gotta throw in 4.5 flips between here and there. You can't be thinking about what's happening every flip.
And it really does feel like you're throwing yourself off the edge?
Sometimes when you're running at the end, it's like, I'm really about to throw myself off of here, aren't I? and that's when you gotta really like focus it back in.
This is about as close as I'll go to the edge. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. What about standing backwards? Oh, one leg. Oh.
Better you than me.
You know, we don't often let people walk down. It's called the walk of shame, but we'll let you slide on this
So
one.
what is the walk of shame?
We're about to do it. There is always that slight amount of judgment as you walk back down.
I'm happy to be judged because I'm not going off the edge. Thank you.